welcome back to my channel, Adventures with Amirah. This is video number 2 of my London travel series, and today I wanted to talk to you guys about 5 things that really shocked us when we went to London. So let's get into it. The first thing that shocked us was the traffic. It was so crazy that we got into a wreck in our taxi. It takes forever to get anywhere in London. Like, you could be 7 miles away and it could take an hour or more to get somewhere, whether you're on a bus, in the taxi. I'm sure the underground may be a little bit more efficient, but we were in a taxi down near the Tower Bridge. We were headed back to Kensington to our hotel. We had not been in that cab, I don't know, maybe 3 minutes when it was in a horrible wreck. Thank God we were okay. We were in the type of taxi, like a little black London taxi. And so the back seats are like 3 people across here and 2 people here facing you. So luckily my kids had their seat belts on, but the guy just wasn't paying attention, or he was trying to bully himself in between traffic because the traffic is insane down there. And he just ran into the back of this Mercedes that was in front of us because he was trying to bulldoze his way over and didn't have room. And he just stopped on the side of the road and we just got out. I guess my daughter was like, well, I guess we saved that $7 or $8 of taxi ride, because it was that much just to get those few minutes apart. Like, it's expensive for taxis there. And I'll get into that in a minute. Just in general, it's expensive. But we just got out and just started walking. The guy was like, oh, here's my number. Ahmed something. He was like, here's my number. If you need to go to the hospital, call me later. I was like, okay then. Well, I guess we'll just walk. And it took us forever. I don't know what was going on, but there were no taxis around. But needless to say, the traffic there is insane, but it's very slow moving. I was surprised because we've been to New York, we've been to Los Angeles, Miami, so we're used to travel all over. And even in Paris, which Paris traffic is crazy also. I would never drive in Paris myself, but we took taxis all the time, and people just weren't as aggressive, in my opinion, in Paris as they were in London, and it wasn't nearly as congested. The second thing I wanted to talk about that shocked us in London were the lines, or over there they call them the queues. Everywhere we went to visit had ridiculous lines. It was unbelievable. When we went to Westminster Abbey, it was, I think, an hour and a half to 2 hours to get in the door. And we pre-booked with the London pass that we'd already purchased online. And you don't get preferential treatment for most of those things when you buy them ahead online. If you have the London pass, you're in the same line with everybody else. And I was shocked that for a church, it would take that long to get in. And there were even lines to get in the little areas where different kings and queens and whatnot throughout history have been buried. So we weren't really prepared for how long it took to get through everything. Also, the line at Windsor Castle, oh, it was horrible. We got there early in the morning before they open. I think they open at 10. And we got there at about 9:40. And we still had to wait about an hour and 45 minutes to get into the line that changes your London pass into a Windsor Castle pass, so that you can get in another line and then go through security, like at the airport, and then get into where the castle is. And we really had not budgeted that much time. We budgeted about 3 hours there, and most of it was waiting in line, and then our ride was there to take us away, and we had transportation that brought us there, so we had to leave. And I was not prepared for that. That was kind of a sad thing about our trip, is that we just, even though I read reviews and stuff online, nobody really talked about how bad the lines are. And it wasn't Christmas time, but they said we were in low season. Most people are there during the summer. And I know that when we got into Windsor Castle, there was a line of people back down the road and around the block, around the castle. And I would imagine the line for those people at that point must have been about 4 hours to get in. And even though we booked our ticket ahead of time, it did not help us at all. The line at the Shard. So my son wants to be an architect, and that was one of the big things that he wanted to see there in London, was the Shard, which is this giant pointy building that they've built there. And we'd already been on the London Eye the night before, but we really wanted to see the view from the Shard, which is also included in our London pass that we had purchased. And when we got to the Shard, there was this huge line, and then there was a kind of shorter line for the London Pass, but the problem was you still had to get in another line once you got inside the building and exchange your London Pass ticket for a pass for the Shard and then get back in a different line. I was so surprised by that. I was like, why in the world would anybody waste time booking a ticket online that makes you have to get into an additional line to get back into the regular line? Like, this is not a good process here. And I was so surprised because I thought some of the lines in Paris were really bad. Like when we went to Versailles, that line was insane. And we had purchased the Paris pass ahead of time, but it was nothing like this in London. I've never seen people have you pre-book tickets, and they were not inexpensive. Like, it wasn't like we got discounted tickets. We just were trying to book them ahead of time to be more efficient, but it did not work out for us at all. I would not recommend the London pass to probably anybody, because even though we would take a whole day and expect to maybe see 2 or 3 things, sometimes we only got to see one thing, because by the time you wait for taxis or you wait for buses and you wait in all the lines, and then somewhere in that time you have to get food, your whole day is gone. That brings us to the next thing that was really shocking about London, is that in the wintertime, it gets dark at 3:50 in the afternoon. But the sun doesn't come up early. The sun comes up maybe around 8. It seems like it's like dawn. And the sun's not fully up until 9:30 or 10. So you have a very short amount of time to do anything. And a lot of things close early. And because of the weather and the time and whatnot, it's just, you feel like you don't have any daylight hardly at all. It almost feels like it's dusk during the little bit of daylight that you do have. That was really strange for us. We've been to Europe a few times in the past few years, but we went in spring to Paris, and then we went in the summer to Scotland, which was the opposite, where it was still daylight at 10 something at night, which seemed a little odd, but it was nice because you could do a lot more things. But because it gets dark so early in London, they were closing a lot of things at 4 o'clock. And so if you're planning to use your pass and buses only start running at a certain time and everything's closing early, it's really difficult to get your value out of that. And because of it getting dark so early, you just feel like most of the stuff you do end up doing is maybe shopping or something at night, which luckily we felt like we were in a more safe area of the city. We didn't feel like there was any problems where we were, but it definitely threw us for a loop and made us feel like we weren't able to get the most out of our days because the daylight was so short. The next thing that shocked us about London was how expensive everything was. And I was not prepared for how expensive things were. We've been to Hawaii, which is notoriously expensive. We've been to New York, like I said before, San Francisco. I didn't think anything would probably be more expensive than Paris, and Paris is on euros and London is on pounds. But when we went to Scotland, they were on pounds as well, so I was thinking it would be more in line with that. It was so expensive that once you did the conversion rate and you realize how much you're spending, we were averaging about $96 a meal for 2 adults and 2 kids. And that's US. Like, after you convert the money, it was about $96. And that was for like fast food. That, not Burger King or KFC, but like a pizza place or something like that. Not like formal sit down. Oh, no, no, no. Those meals would have been probably $200 to $300 for a family of 4. And we were drinking tap water. And we didn't get desserts or anything like that, and it still would be that expensive. I just could not have prepared myself for how expensive the meals were. So that is something you need to know before you go to London. Everything is expensive. The London pass was far more expensive than some of the other museum passes we've bought when we've gone to other places. And you don't get as much value for your money because, like I said, it takes so long to get everywhere. Taxis were far more expensive. Taxis across the city were maybe like $45. Actually, no, I think it was more like $50 US because it was about 30 something in pounds. So with US, it's like $50. If you're taking a $50 cab constantly, that just adds up a lot. Luckily, where we were staying, we were able to walk to a lot of the things that we wanted to go see and do. We did a private tour to go out to Stonehenge, and we went to Windsor Castle that same day. And it was about $650. And we did a similar type trip when we were in Paris, and it was only $350. So you're talking almost double the price. In Paris, almost every taxi that we took anywhere wasn't that expensive. You're talking maybe €7, which is about $12 instead of $50 for the same type distance. And they were newer, better quality vehicles. So you need to keep that in mind if you are planning on visiting. That was very shocking to us. And finally, the last thing that shocked me, which was really nice, was how diverse London was. It was so diverse compared to a lot of places we've been in America, even in New York and places like that. Where we were staying in Kensington, there were so many Muslims. I mean, I saw thousands of Muslims a day. And everybody seemed happy. Everybody was getting along. And I was so shocked because there's such a stigma attached to people, anybody that's different in America. If they're covered, I mean, we saw women that were full face veil covered all the way to the floor. But these women were dressed to the nines, beautiful outfits and stuff. And you almost feel like you've been transported to this exotic land. Because when we went to Harrods on Christmas Eve, it was like wall-to-wall people, and almost all of them were Muslim women buying up, you know, $1,000 bags here and there. But we also saw lots of other people, and nobody really seemed, I'm sure there are racist people there, but it was nothing like we experienced here in America. There weren't people staring and gawking, and everybody just seemed to be amicable and getting along. We talked to a gentleman on Christmas Day where we were having dinner. He was from Albania, I think, and he was saying that one of the things that made him move to London was how diverse it is, because he says, of course, he looked Caucasian. He had very fair skin and blue eyes, and you know, I would never know where he was from, but he was saying that when he lived in a few other countries, that they were very against him because he wasn't from their country. So I guess some countries in Europe, if you're not from there originally, even if you grew up there, he was saying he grew up in one country, I won't say what country it was, but he grew up in one country and he spoke the language fluently since he was a child, but I guess they could just tell he wasn't, maybe his facial features or something, I would never know the difference, but that they were very prejudiced against him because he wasn't of their bloodline from that country. And he was saying in London, everything is just super diverse, and he's met people from all over the world, and a lot of them moved there for the same reason, which could be why things are so expensive. I know the rents in London are considered some of the highest in the world, but that was a nice surprise. I did enjoy that. I love my kids to be able to see diverse things in life and meet people from all walks of life and different cultures and religions. So that was a pleasant surprise. All right, thank you guys so much for stopping by. I will be doing another part of this series next week, so make sure to hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell so they'll let you know as soon as I post my video. Talk to you soon. Bye-bye.